Before we begin, just want to understand, get a gauge of the audience that we have. How many startups are here? Anybody? Okay, we do have. Good to have you with us. Any corporate whose funding startup is present over here? No, apart from my panel. Okay, so now you know where the situation is and what it is all about. So I was just reminded of where are we in India on innovation and how does India looks at innovation. There has been a time when innovation was always looked at from a lens of pharmaceuticals, research and development. And we just have 0.64% of our GDP allocated for innovation. I think it's just over the last decade that we are looking at innovation from a lens of social development, perhaps, processes, and how can we look at doing things differently and in a better way. And that's where the innovation angle comes in. But my whole personal view has been that कहीं तो हम बचपन में innovation को छोड़ आए. And the reason being we stopped asking questions. Look at a child. What puts a child apart is his curiosity, his ability to question and wanting answers. As we grow older, we stop asking questions. And when you stop asking questions, you are not going to find answers. And innovation will continue to suffer. So somewhere curiosity and questioning, two essential skills of innovation, have been left behind. And I think it's time we bring that up. But of course, there are a lot more things that need to be done. And I have a very erudite panel with me who will talk about what they have been doing, what solutions are they looking for. But before I begin, I just want to get a feel of what is it the audience is looking out for. Maybe one or two, what are you looking out? If anybody wants to share, what's going to be your takeaway from this panel? And I want to ensure that we give you what you want to listen, hearing. Anybody who wants to say what they're looking out from here? Yes, please. Can we have a mic behind to the two ladies? I like the fact that the ladies are more curious.
Yeah, hi, I'm Vaijayanti Shankar, the Executive Director for Center for Science of Student Learning.
Right.
So you mentioned about asking questions. That's what we do day in and day out. And it's not that all questions.
What are you looking out from here?
I'm exactly coming to that. So as I said, we are from science of learning. We think learning is a science. But what I find in this country is that not only is not innovation, not enough patents, etc., but when we test on thinking skills, less than 10% of population have thinking skills. But when we want to research into figuring out how learning happens, how do we make sure that people think?
I get your question. How
are you going to fund it?
Thank you. How do we inculcate thinking skills when innovation comes in? And maybe one of my panels will build that up. The lady behind you also had a question. Yes, please.
Yeah, hello. So I am Dr. Rajeshri from BIF, and what I would like to know is, when we are working in development sector, there are a lot of challenges and pain points. So that is a gap, innovations, and we will become redundant unless we have newer solutions, newer approaches, and newer technologies. So I would like to understand the view of corporates, because they are our funders also on this, and whether there is any scope for partnership also with CSOs, so that societal
Chetna is the one who will be there, and I'm sure she has that some views to say. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm glad to see women power in this room. Yes.
Hi,
1 minute. I think she got the mic, and then we'll come to you, ma'am. That's the last I will take. These two, yeah.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Anushka Mishra. I'm from Equal Innovation. What we do is we identify startups from all around the world that are nominated basically by the centers, university research labs, wherever they are coming from, as as the next leaders or torch bearers for innovation. However, we've not been able to gather enough interest from the CSR side to fund.
That is something you will hear from our panelists. How do we get there? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So how to excite the CSR CSRs enough to, you know,
Perfect.
take the risk.
I think we are all on the right track. Yes, ma'am, last question to you, and then we can begin.
My name is Aishwarya, and I come from an organization called Teach for Change. So I'm looking that various agencies come and they talk about innovation and startup. I would really like to learn from this session that what is the quota of innovation and what is the quota of financial commitment that the startups look out for when they are thinking of choosing the startup to foster upon.
Perfect. Now, which means that after this session, the only questions I will take is which have not been answered. If it's been answered before, maybe after the session, we could take yours in. So I would like to begin from where you left out, and especially look at how India ranks in the innovation sort of category. And one of my panelists told me very interestingly that we are 40 out of 132 countries, and Niti Aayog has an ambitious target of putting India at 25 by 2040 in the rank of innovation. But what does this really mean, and what can governments do? And I have Hiranmai with me, who has a very interesting story as to how state governments can fuel innovation. Let's listen to him.
So yes, so there are three ways I look this as a problem. So I think two of you asked about how CSR can enable this program and how government can chip in. So if I give you a classical economics way how market and government works, but in the space of innovation and entrepreneurship, government has been focusing on giving money, mentorship and other things when private sector is absent. That means in the R&D phase, in product development phase, or little bit of yearly go-to-market phase. And private sector is coming when they see value for money or there is a traction. The real gap is between these two. There are two sides of the breeze available. Once you show that you can create value for money, ample amount of money available, more than 1,000 venture funds available to give money. But other side also there are significant amount of public grants available for R&D and innovation. But once one innovation happens on ground, that need to be demonstrated also. And I think that is one area where we in the government also play a role. Of course, we play across the spectrum. We support at POC, we support at minimum viable product, we support at accelerating space, we support at the equity investments. But this is one area probably corporate and CSR can play a vital role by showcasing Indian innovation getting fructified on ground here. And once this fructification can be empirically visible, I'm sure private sector money can follow you up. But till that phase, the demonstration effect of innovation and startups is a gap area. Not significant amount of money has been laid from the government's budget or the private sector. We in the state of Gujarat has allocated 1,000 crores of public taxpayer money. All of you pay taxes, that comes to us. We give it back to young founders across the domains. We predominantly support at the proof of concept, minimum viable product and early traction stage. Because post that factor, the role of private sector come in place, we enable them to go to venture funds and others. Having said that, iHub works in a hub and spoke model. We work with both private sector, government institution and civil society organization like many of you. And we know very clearly what is our role in the ecosystem. We are not the driver, we are the enabler.
Very interesting. I don't know how many of you are aware that the state of Gujarat has set up a PSU for startups to fuel innovation. And they have a mandate of nurturing 10,000 innovation ideas in 5 years. And each idea has a grant of 10 lakhs. And then post proof of concept, there's another grant of 35 lakhs. So how many of you are aware of this? So there is money, there is push from the government. Somewhere I feel that the equal push from the startups need to come in, or from corporates need to come in to sort of, build that whole ecosystem where everybody, it's a win-win. But, my experience with almost 4 decades of working, the biggest challenge I find is changing mindsets. People are so used to doing things the way they are doing that they do not want to look at coming out of their comfort zone and doing things differently or even thinking differently. And one key to changing that mindset, what I have realized, is mentoring. Hand holding them or showing them the way or giving them the guidance. And I know, Yogesh, your company runs a lot of innovative mentoring programs. But I do want you to touch upon why did you look at mentoring, and maybe share some success stories as to how mentoring can be a game changer.
Sure. Thank you, Sarita, and thank you, CSR Box, for having us here. So, just to give a little background, that we at Schaeffler India, promote innovation at every sphere of our operation. So, as a part of CSR program, we proudly run a program called Schaeffler Social Innovator Fellowship Program, which is basically designed to promote innovation and bring that aspect into CSR as well. So for this particular program, we have collaborated with IMA Venture at IMA Ahmedabad, and where we provide access to this particular exclusive mentorship to the startups, and also, I mean, this access to the world-class mentor. And most of the unicorn, if you will find, they have been there for the mentorship. So that is the kind of mentorship we provide to the social innovator. So every year we identify 10 social innovator and we support. So far we have supported 21 innovators in last 3 years. And as Sarita was saying about the success story, so I would like to quote two examples of our last cohort. So one of the social innovator we supported is Siddhesh. He's a mechanical engineer but wanted to solve an issue of farming, basically low productivity. So the interesting story was so we are supporting this particular startup is a legal format is a non-profit organization. It's an NGO. So while COVID, he lost his father, and while he was doing the accounting, he found out that so only 3,000 rupees left in his father's bank account. And then he realized why his father did not wanted him to be the farmer. And it really touched him, and because he had some experience with working on soil health, he himself tested around 1,000 soil sample while he was working on an internship with Vigyan Ashram. So then he designed a prototype. He worked with a lot of farmers and bring out a agroforestry project, a regenerative agroforestry concept, where a farmer's income can be raised between 1 to 3 lakh within 3 years. So that is the kind of innovation he was. So when we came across him and we supported him for this mentorship program, it really brought him a different perspective, because his target audience was marginal, small and marginal farmer. So the mentors helped them that, okay, fine, you will do it from the grant, but how you will bring a sustainability to your institution. So for that, the mentors have given them a different perspective, because there are a customer segment. Those individuals are having large tract of land, like 200, 300 acres. They might be in US or UK, but they want their the land to be managed sustainably in India. So why don't you design a product for this particular category, so you can earn a revenue stream for this, and you can scale up your outreach to the marginal farmers. And he is working on the prototype, and he has pitched. So the mentors have actually able to connect to those funders, and he is experimenting that. And recently, this particular guy has been recognized as a land hero by United Nations Convention for Land Desertification at Bonn, Germany. So this is the kind of innovation we are supporting. They're scaling. On the other side, we had Nidhi, who is passionate about working with neurodiverse kids. She wanted to solve the issue of how to bring the learning to the neurodiverse kid, even the other normal kids as well. So she designed a brain skin technology, and we supported her. And this particular mentorship program has really helped her in terms of validating their customer B2B model, other model which she was struggling with. And in the last season of Shark Tank, she has been supported by 2 Shark, Namita and both the Shark. They have supported her. So this is the kind of success story we have recently seen, and I hope that I have answered you.
Yeah, many more to come, which is very fascinating to know. I was looking at the startup landscape in India when I'm not sure how many. We have more than 1 lakh of startups in the country, and more than 100 unicorns. Right? But the maximum money, almost 30% of the funding goes for tech, startups led with technology, and then fintech comes in next. and you have agri-tech and water and energy, and the 3% is on social impact, or funding given to startups which look at processes or are driven from the ground. But it was very heartening to learn what Chetna's company is doing at the grassroots level to fuel innovation, and I leave it to her to share some thoughts. And maybe why did you go there to the grassroots level, Chetna?
So, hi everyone. I'll start with the why first. So, our company, Publicis Sapient, is basically a digital transformation company, but our purpose is to enable people to thrive in the brave pursuit of their next. And this actually extends to even how we view and we look at our CSR, sustainability, ESG, or whatever you call it, programs. And as part of the mandated law, Indian law funds, what we created was a Publicis Sapient grant program, which we very consciously took the approach that we will fund only underserved, causes and marginalized communities, which are underserved even by the corporate sector. So when we, hear this data point like what Sarita is saying, that's exactly why we would have actually chosen a project like the Grassroots Innovations Accelerator Program. And this, what we did was, when you look at India as a country, even though we are a high-tech, urban-focused kind of a company, but when we look at, the community we operate in, which is India, most of our people, more than 50%, earn their livelihood from agriculture. 17–18% of our GDP is from agriculture. But, our productivity in India is very low compared to other countries. And most of our agricultural activities are labor-intensive, manual labor-intensive. So we saw and recognized a need for innovations, for creativity, and an ecosystem to foster that, so that, innovators on the ground actually solving real-life problems. Because tech for good doesn't mean only, high tech for good. It means basically any kind of technology, which actually solves a real-world problem and makes life easier for people. So even something like, a simple thing like, putting up a stake so that your tomato plants can actually not lie on the ground and the fruit, is away from the ground and you have more productivity is technology at the end of the day. So that was like the thought why we went in for this, and we partnered with an amazing organization called NIF, Entrepreneurship and Incubation Council, which was set up by the National Innovation Foundation of India. So what the National Innovation Foundation of India has been doing for many years now, 10, 11 years, is actually supporting 20 or 30 grassroots innovators. So these are innovators who've maybe not even completed, their 8th or 10th class. And they have come up with prototypes which are solving problems at the grassroots, or they're using some traditional knowledge. And out of these 200 or so that every 2 years they finalize, it's only 20 or so who get the award from the president. So the rest of the ones who are very good, NIFENTRIC, which is the acronym for our implementing partner, they actually, try and get support for them. So we came in from our, CSR funds, the Publicis Sapient Grant Program, and we decided to support 6 of these grassroots innovators. And what it means basically is that for a whole year, these innovators who already have their prototype is made market ready. They are given all the support to register their prototypes, get the IPR, the patents, get all the relevant certifications, actually be registered as a legal entity, give them training to build their capacity to be entrepreneurs as well. And we supported 6 last year innovators, and this year we are supporting 9 already. So just to give you an idea as to the kind of innovations we support and the kind of impact, they have. So some of them would be like a pepper thresher, or a coal vegetable, or a weeding implement which helps in weeding. or something like a walnut peeler. There's one innovator in Jammu and Kashmir who does that. And like one of the stories which I can share with you just so that you get a sense of, the kind of impact it can have is Shine Joseph is one of our innovators that we supported last year. So we know that, the whole 1 year journey has been done with him. And Shine basically comes from Kozhikode. I hope I pronounce it correctly. Any people from Kerala in the audience, tell me. But he comes from Kozhikode, and the clove bud cultivation is a big source of livelihood there. But obviously, it all happens at the same time. There is, paucity of manual labor availability. There is also a particular harvesting time. So all those pressures are there. And what used to happen is that, say, 30 people used to take a full day to process 400 kilograms of clove buds, which had already been harvested, just to process them to remove the stalk from the bud. Now, he created a machine which is just 3 spiral blades, a simple thing, but what it does magically is that the same 400 kilograms, which 30 people in one day used to process, it processes in 1 hour. So he basically has transformed, that whole, industry of clove buds. And people, even though, of course, the machine requires some investment as well as, fuel costs and things like that, but still overall, there is a 10% reduction in the cost for the farmer as well. So these are the kind of things. Means my thing basically is that, don't think immediately when you think of innovation and startup as high tech and, fintech and all that, because most of our people are not, IIT graduates or, leading business school graduates. Most of our people are people who maybe are not even literate. So creativity and innovation has to be fostered at every level.
And I think you got your answer as to how corporates can look at startups through their CSR funds. I think amazing examples at the grassroots use the community to find their answers because they know their pain points and hence they will be able to come to solutions. And that brings me to Munish. A lot of it is technology driven, a lot of innovation is technology driven. Do you have any examples which are very different as to how technology was used for innovation?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm really nice to be part of this. So, I think just to add to what Harinmay was mentioning that we have grants and we have CSR and private capital. So we usually come at a stage when the startup probably if they are a for-profit company and they are looking for impact investment more at the equity level. That's where we come in. But we also provide grant support mostly from startup seed fund and Mighty Samrit scheme. So those central scheme are also available for startups to access that kind of grants. And if you are having a for-profit company and you have a business model, then private capital is available, and there can be discussion in terms of how to balance the for-profit part and how to balance the social aspect of it. So we work with mostly for-profit companies in social impact, and during this we have realized that there could be innovative solutions that can come in. So for example, we have a company which is in a legal tech called Lawyered. They were focusing more on providing business for lawyers in terms of providing them some support across India and doing some work for them. But gradually they realized that they have a network of lawyers across India and how they can probably use that for social impact. And one of the products that they launched was Lawyers on the Wheels, which they have specifically launched for truck drivers. So truck drivers face a lot of challenges while going across India, either through challans or probably accidents or sometimes harassment from local authorities as well. So how do an individual who's working for a company should be taking care of those aspects? So they provide on-call legal support as well as offline support. So they have lawyers across pin codes in India, and they can mobilize it immediately within 2 hours for them to provide on-ground support. So this has saved a lot of harassment for the truck drivers as well as saved a lot of time and cost for the truck owners as well, because now the truck movements can happen immediately. So this has resolved a lot of problem. In fact, um, the Infosys founder Nikhil Nalkani has also praised him as part of one of the program that he mentioned, that these are some of the innovative solutions that should take place. Why I am saying is that they started off with something else, but with the same business model or same ecosystem that they have created, they can develop solutions which can have social impact as well. So if a startup has a solution, probably look what is your end beneficiary and then probably look for accessing those CSR. So someone was asking, how we can access that CSR and how the corporates would be interested in. Of course, one, you look at, what kind of thematic areas or areas they are investing in, but can you design a solution with the current setup and not spending too much around it, maybe probably changing a little bit of business model and cater to their demand, then you would be able to access the, some other CSR, and there could be multiple innovative models that can come out of from the same thing. So that's what I want to add.
I love this idea of the legal support for truck drivers, and as long as they do the right thing, they don't cause an accident, so they should, and no deaths, then there should be no the legal support would be of a different kind.
Even for that, if they
There
have
would be a
somehow
legal support
got
of
it,
a different
yeah,
kind.
they don't have to pay out. They have to be a legal channel. They should not be harassed. There are IPC laws for it. Are local authorities following those laws or not? So that has to be taken into account. So
No, amazing. I just love this innovative way of using technology, startup, and then bringing it together to bring support a group which people hardly look at, this aspect of legal support that is there. But the one question that always, and one word I have been hearing since yesterday I came for the evening program and today is gap. And maybe I should tell Bhomik next year to have a whole conference named as Gaps in CSR perhaps, because that's the thing, recurring thing coming. And I want to flip that question and maybe ask each of my panelists कि अगर आपके पास जादू की छड़ी होती, निर्मय हिरुण में आपसे शुरू करते हैं, तो what is that one solution or one outcome that you would look out for? From the startup, CSR, corporate, whatever, or innovation?
I think like you started the conversation about the innovation index, right? One of the things in which we are not really doing well as a country is hunger of private sector in promoting innovation. And the part could be through their CSR or through their direct hard-earned money, either through fiscal incentives or through policy regulation or through self-volunteer mechanism. Somehow we need to see private sector more participating in terms of talking about innovation, embracing innovation, and nurturing innovation. Because without these things, the GTM problem, the go-to-market problem will not be solved. The second important thing is, I colloquially say, that traditional entrepreneurs 20 years before used to be talking about dhanda. Today startups are talking about panga. And what do you mean by panga is, you are trying to solve problems which does not necessarily make an economic sense for you at today. And if those problems, which you are like ma'am told, if those problems being solved does not make an economic case, investors will not come. But does not mean that those problems need not to be solved. So we need to have an alternative mechanism, both public-private participation, in addressing those entrepreneurs who are trying to solve problems which not necessarily will give you a 5x or 10x return in your balance sheets, but it is imperative that those problems need to be solved. This is second thing that we want to see. And third and very pertinent thing that we are also trying to see is, we as a nation must giving emphasis on buying from our innovators and startups. We predominantly as a consumption economy, right? And today, if you go to, I proudly say my state government has a policy which do away with all the L1 methods of tenders when you procures. If we have a startup, we do away with all these L1, L2, L3 process and give them an order up to 1 crore rupees to prove their use cases. Now, we need to be a little more proactive in terms of doing those things to buy from our innovators and startups. Not necessarily at the government level, but also in the industrial level. So one side, what I'm saying is, can the hunger factor of private sector, either by leveraging CSR or by strategic money, can be going up? Second, how do we make sure that we give priority in terms of consuming what these innovators and startups produce at all layers? And third, what kind of policy and regulatory regimes that we can bring in which can probably create an incentive for everybody else? If you can do these three, I think it is amazing days to come.
Right. Chetna, you want to add a fourth one to that, Chetna?
So the fourth one I would add, and it'll be more from, the societal point of view rather than just, what government can do and what, the legislative landscape can be, is actually each one of us can easily do, and it doesn't require any CSR or anything, which is what Sarita referred to in the beginning, is that actually in our individual capacities, foster and appreciate, creativity, curiosity, and as well as thinking differently. Because I think particularly in our country, there is a lot of a culture of, deference that is there, and we automatically equate, age with wisdom, which is really not, the case anymore. So I think there has to be, also this societal mindset change, which each one of us should, work towards as well. As far as, CSR supporting more innovation, from that point of view, I think it has to be that, the innovators have to put forward something which is really solving a problem. And it also needs to be something which will actually find a market as well. And then what the CSR practitioner should do, and which we've tried to do through our project, is make sure that end-to-end it is just not an idea that we are supporting. We support it end-to-end till they are market ready and actually commercially able to sell their product. Because otherwise, you kind of support one section of their journey and then it can fall flat again. So I think that whole closing the loop with whatever type of innovation you support as a CSR practitioner, I think that is important. And that's why we didn't support, we came into support only at the prototype level, because then we knew that it would be within 1 year we can, get their legal entity done, the commercialization done, and make them market ready. Because many a times, otherwise you need 5-6 years, for fostering innovation and startups.
So the magic one comes to you, Yogesh. And I know it's very easy to talk of challenges. But I just want you to rethink not them as challenges, but what are those opportunities and what solutions, or what's a different thing that you're looking at if you had that opportunity to do?
So if I
And I would request the audience to be at least silent for respect of the panel over here. We've all removed great time from our busy schedules. If you're not interested, please, the doors are open for you, but I would really love the audience to respect my panelists. Thank you.
Yeah, so Sarita, regarding that magic stick, if I would have that, then what I feel for promoting innovation, first we should allow to fail. We are so obsessed with success rate, success stories, and coming from a social sector, I really sometimes feel very difficult with the words like return on investment, IRR, and if I have that magic stick, I will say you are allowed to fail. And I think that will promote a lot of innovation and, the ecosystem will be enabled. So I feel that is one thing I would like to change, and everyone, all the stakeholders should see this as not a profit-making this thing, but to enable the entire ecosystem, we should be allowed to fail to encourage the ideas.
You must pardon me, I go back to children and how, but बच्चा जब चलना सीखता है, गिर गिर के ही चलना सीखता है, ऐसे तो नहीं कि एक दिन खड़ा हो जाएगा. So I think we need to go back and back to looking at childhood, children, and how that curiosity came in, and maybe sometimes we need to go back to grassroots, to the basics. We forget that on the
I will
way.
just take a minute to add on what she said. Of course, in government on record, nobody promotes how to incentivize failure. But what we have done is something interesting. If an entrepreneur come to us and he can give a report on the learning of his last failure, we don't evaluate him, we fund him directly.
Wonderful, wonderful. Round of
So
applause
it was tough for us to go through
high
audits
up.
and others because we are a public institution, but we have made it possible.
Wonderful. All right, let's hear from Munish. What else do you wish could change for the better?
So my focus is, of course, to help startups, and that's what India Accelerator does. And right now, I think there are more than 26,000 crores of CSR available annually, and we are not able to even access 0.1% of it. So if I could change something, I would rather have more access to that, and probably ask corporates to look at startups at not just to help what you are already doing, but also look it as a larger scale, because they can scale much faster than, the already existing solutions are there on the ecosystem. Already NGOs and foundations are working in that space, but if you bring the tech element to it and the young entrepreneurs zeal to, execute on ground, we can scale very fast, right? And if we can change that 0.1% to probably 2 or 3%, that's equivalent to, all the VC amount money that is available from a private capital point of view. So private capital along with CSR money, if we can infuse in the startups, I think we are looking at another 100 unicorns in next 3 years. So.
Wonderful. I think that's the growth trajectory that India would also go to. I'm opening up the floor for a couple of questions, only if your question has not been answered. And
Sarita?
please do not leave it as comment. I do want a question.
So
Yes,
I think the
Chair.
lady had asked about innovation in
Yeah.
the NGOs. I don't think we've answered it.
Do you want to put
Yeah,
that
so
up,
I just
please?
wanted to answer that lady's question. So basically what she'd asked is that what is the innovation that we suggest, NGOs should do to keep up with the changing times. And I think the first biggest thing, the one thing I can recommend is basically you have to bridge that gap and that, gap of distrust that is there between the companies as well as the NGOs. And that distrust is mainly there because of, difference in governance levels, because NGOs are not subjected to the same governance levels that, corporates are suggested to. And we don't have any NGO governance guidelines. We have a very outdated, Societies Registration Act or, so I would suggest that for one of the things the NGO should do is maybe try and get registered as Section 8 companies, because then that really reassures, companies, because then your corporate governance level will be at par. So that's one of the innovations that I could suggest.
Yeah, and it takes you back to the inaugural session when, Bhumik unveiled the India CSR book. Almost 37 to 38% of NGOs who were surveyed did not have a structured governance process. And that itself is such a telling story as to how much there needs to be really done. Can I have the mic to this gentleman over here in the front? I think he has a question. A question, sir, and all of those who wish to introduce you and the work you do, you can get hold of all of them after this session. To the gentleman in the jacket, yeah.
Thank you, madam. I'm Professor Santosh Kumar from Nehu, Shillong. My very simple question is, we are talking about the startup culture. We have very good research facilities in IITs, central universities and NITs. We have very good, fine brains there who are doing research. But the industry having the problem because they are not sharing their problems to the institutions. I think there is some hesitation. They don't want to share their problems or product knowledge or something to the institutions. Why they cannot share something to the institution and they can take benefit of the minds there? Because what research we do in the education sector or the institutes, they are lying in the cell. They are not going to maximum
So
time
your
to
question
the
is how do
so
we
how
bridge that?
this CSR fund can help us? We have many. Today I got 27 ideas in my cell, EDC, Entrepreneurship Development Cell. And I was discussing few minutes ago, I was in the meeting. But we don't have funders except the government agencies. Like
yeah, so
Mr.
that's why
Hiranand
I
Mahanta
want
said,
Hiranmai to answer
So-
that question
so-
and to see
no,
how we
he
can support.
explained little bit about that. Because I have that idea and we have that.
Yeah, but I would like
facility.
him to explain that for the benefit of the audience so everybody understands
But
from
we
him.
want the industry to come in, to chip in extra.
Yeah, and Chetna
So
will
I
be-
will tell you,
Yogesh can also answer that.
I just would like to say something. So, like we at Schaeffler, we have already, collaborated with IIT Madras and IIT Roorkee. What you were saying about, sharing the knowledge and supporting some of the research project. And those research project, what we have supported is for the social good. I mean, which can be taken by, it's open, no patent. So those kind of research project we have already, we are already doing it with IIT Roorkee and IIT Madras. Just I thought to bring clarity that there are corporate who are open to this.
I think sir,
Sir,
अगर आपकी सवाल क्या इसमें है कि इंडस्ट्री क्यों प्रॉब्लम देता नहीं ऐसा?
May I please? I saw the industry in Finland and the Sweden, they are bringing their high-end technology problems to the institutes, and they were solving. I did work in the one university in Lappeenranta Technical University, Finland, and we were given problem of defense project, but in the part, not the whole problem. So these type things can save time of the industry, can benefit, but we are missing that factor here in India.
Oh, agreed. You have
Want me
anything
to?
to
I'll
add?
just make it brief. सर ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं हो रहा है, कोशिश हो रहा है. जैसे कि अगर मैं मेरे स्टेट की बात करूं, बिकॉज मैं डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एजुकेशन रिप्रेजेंट करता हूं, हम लोगों ने हमारे 44 PSUs हैं, स्टेट PSUs, उनकी जो CTOs हैं, हर साल हम उनसे 25 प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स लेते हैं जो किसी मास्टर्स या PhD की रिसर्च के लायक हो, और हम गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से एवरी स्टूडेंट इनोवेटर और एंटरप्रेन्योर जो उसको सॉल्व करने की कोशिश करता है, उसको 20 लाख की ग्रांट भी देते हैं उन प्रॉब्लम्स के अगेंस्ट में. और काम वहाँ तक नहीं रोका, क्योंकि इट इज़ नॉट अबाउट प्रॉब्लम और सोल्यूशन. जैसे मैंने कहा, उस सोल्यूशन को डिप्लॉय करने की बैंडविड्थ भी होनी चाहिए, अदरवाइज वो इनोवेशन में किसी तिजोरी में रहेगा. व्हाट वी आर डूइंग नाउ इज, उन प्रोफेसर्स को, उन स्टूडेंट्स को जब इनोवेशन बनाते हैं, उनको डिफ्यूज करने के लिए, उनको उन PSUs में इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए भी हमने ग्रांट स्कीम बनाए हैं. हाँ, एक ये जरूर चीज़ है कि शायद ये पूरी भारत में हर एक यूनिवर्सिटी में पॉलिसी नहीं होगी, बट कोशिशें इसके बारे में बहुत जगह पे हुए हैं. बट कहीं ना कहीं ये भी चीज़ है कि इंडस्ट्री को लगता है कि मेरे को टाइम बाउंड सोल्यूशन चाहिए, और एकेडमिक्स के पास अपना एक टाइम फ्री जोन है कि हम इस साल मार्च में थीसिस सबमिट करेंगे और जुलाई में फिर मिलेंगे. इंडस्ट्री कैन नॉट वेट फॉर दैट फ्री जोन इन द टाइम थिंग. सो अगर आई थिंक टाइम बाउंड कंसिस्टेंट एंड सिंसियरिटी एफर्ट्स बढ़ाएंगे, a huge amount of human hours can be saved and this can be possible.
So I have the times up over here, but I'll take one question. Ashish, you have a question and maybe one more. Yeah. Yeah, to Ashish. Yeah.
Since there are no CSR corporates here when we began the session, not on the panel.
Yes. Unfortunately, no. Yes, you're right.
So my question is to Hiranmay and Munish, like how incubators can partner with corporates in such situation for supporting startup culture.
अभी आप मुनीश जी को मिलेंगे, आपको प्रपोजल पकड़ाएंगे, कल से काम चालू कर दीजिए.
No, we already are engaging with corporates, so we have corporate accelerator programs that we engage with them. We understand the use cases that they need for, and then get the startups to work on it as well. In fact, we have programs for academia as well, and we take those use cases back to the academia and ask them to work on it, right? So हमने भी ये problem देखी है कि वहाँ पे जो solutions entrepreneurs काम कर रहे हैं, they should not idly be working on it. And if corporate has those programs, why not work on it? So that matchmaking has to happen. Someone has to handhold those entrepreneurs to take it from the research to the commercialization and to POC and probably going forward as well. That is the role that an incubator or accelerator in this case can do, and probably fund them through grants and private money. Then only those solutions will be happening. But yes, there are some efforts being done.
I have a last question from the audience. Yes, please.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Neeraj Chandra and I represent MeadowPlus, which is a healthcare technology company primarily focused to work in rural areas. So the question is that when we did this and we saw that whatever steps that we are taking and progressing, there is a massive impact which is happening because there is entrepreneurship getting created and also patients' life betterment. But when we started seeing this, it's a for profit. So when we started seeing this impact, we started reaching out to various corporates as well to see if there are possible partnerships, but then we saw that there are many regulatory challenges which are disabling such partnerships. So my first question is that I do not know, maybe someone comes from government or do you guys see something happening in this space while there are again social stocks exchanges again for NGOs only right now? The second piece is that there are multiple programs which run inside such initiatives. It's a completely new initiative which is has seen good outcomes, and what we have seen is with respect to various NGOs, it delivers much more impact. But then I can see a lot of blockages happening in terms of the funds getting infused. Being Bharat, when we reach out to VCs also, we say that we have reached out to this point and no one has so far said that it is not a good job. But then we also say that, they say us that Bharat requires you. We say now, we have already proven a point, Bharat requires you. So
Yeah, no, I think you did mention about a regulatory policy challenge, but maybe a little bit more you want to
I think,
expand to
let me tell you a very simple thing. I mean, investors takes others' money to invest in your idea to get some more money so that they can have money and give back money. That's the business, right? So the challenge is, I think we are talking too much about value for money and too less about value for many. The moment these regulatory things or the policymakers will realize we should equally celebrate something called impact unicorns than the only unicorns, the narrative of venture world will change. But we need to have a conversation going around that. And I think these platforms like these, forums like these, talking about that itself is creating a narrative. Always narrative to policy takes a decade. Faster we make the narrative, faster we prove data from the ground, I think policy will take in shape. Regarding these exchanges, conversations are happening, SEBI is very seriously looking into it. But few use cases, few success stories, despite those policy regulatory, if we can bring out of the table, it becomes very easy for others to come out from the fear factor to allow more people to come in. So I think that thing is already happening, and if you have a recommendation precisely, I will personally happy to take it forward.
I think Manish, last
Yeah,
word to you.
just to add to that, I think a lot of startups do face that problem, especially if you want to access the CSR, right? As a private limited company, you will face challenge. But there are ways to, partner with organizations to access that, or probably, some bit of the product, for example, skilling. A lot of corporates are giving money for that. How do you access that? It's just that you have to understand, who's your stakeholder and what are the regulations they have to face, right? So I'm very much with the corporate that, if they can't give money to private, how would they give that to? So probably do some partnership with the NGO or probably educational institutes as well. Now the corporates can give CSR money to IITs, incubators as well, and then they can deploy it for some solutioning for startups, right? So why don't you route that channel and, probably make what you can get best out of it. And of course, private capital is always available if your business model is
Thank you. I mean, those who wish to know more, please reach out to them outside the room so that the next panel can start. All I can say is I'm hearing words like collaboration, co-creation, partnering, and it reminds me of, once seeing a group of children in a village, and they were all crying, and I said, well, why are you crying? Oh, we have a big giant in the village, and he bullies us every day. Well, so do something. All of you get together, partner together, and do something. But how can we do that? He's a giant. He's so big. How do we hit him? And then somebody says, because he's so big, you can't miss hitting him. So it's just how you look at a problem or you look at a situation that can lead to a solution for all of us. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you to my wonderful audience for being with us today. Thank you.